Mistress hugs millionaire husband in front of pregnant wife, but his reaction leaves her in shame. In the dazzling lights of Los Angeles, one scandalous encounter threatens to shatter the high society facade of a wealthy family. When renowned millionaire and real estate mogul Leonard Santiago publicly embraces his secret mistress, Anastasia Clarke, in front of his pregnant wife, Sofia Santiago, the world seems to freeze in shock. But what happens next leaves everyone gasping in disbelief, especially Anastasia, whose smug satisfaction quickly dissolves into shame. This is a tale of betrayal, heartbreak, and redemption, where a single moment unravels hidden motives and buried secrets. Brace yourself for a roller coaster of twists as we witness true drama behind closed doors. Los Angeles had never looked gloomier. The clouds hung low, threatening to unleash a downpour at any moment. Sofia Santiago stared through the tinted windows of her chauffeur-driven Bentley, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. Though L.A. was known for sun-soaked boulevards and warm breezes, this day felt unusually dark and heavy, much like the weight in her heart. She was on her way to a charity gala at the prestigious Harrington Hotel. It was an event her husband, Leonard Santiago, was hosting to raise funds for a local orphanage, and attendance was mandatory for any family member bearing the Santiago name. Sofia was 6 months pregnant, yet the pregnancy glow everyone raved about seemed to bypass her. Instead, she was plagued by constant worry. Rumors swirling around her marriage had grown too loud to ignore. Whispers of a beautiful, cunning mistress named Anastasia Clarke had seeped through the grapevine of LA's elite circles. Sofia first heard it from her close friend, Dr. Hilary Brown, who casually mentioned seeing Leonard dining with a mysterious woman at the exclusive restaurant Celestino's. The potential betrayal gnawed at her soul, but, determined to save her marriage and protect her unborn child, she forced herself to appear poised and graceful, as a proper socialite should. The Bentley pulled up to the entrance of the Harrington Hotel, and a uniformed valet rushed over with a large umbrella. Sofia, her baby bump discreetly adorned by a flowing emerald green gown, stepped out slowly. The paparazzi on the sidelines snapped pictures, hungry for the next big gossip story. She could almost feel their lenses capturing every tremor of her troubled expression. Summoning all her composure, she lifted her chin and walked toward the gleaming doors. Wishing Leonard's rumored affair was just a figment of her imagination, Leonard Santiago was as close to L.A. royalty as one could get. Born into the prestigious Santiago family known for their massive real estate holdings across California, he had inherited the family fortune, but also proved himself more than capable in business. At 40 years old, he boasted an impressive portfolio, luxury hotels, private resorts, and condominium towers that dominated the city skyline. Whispers of philanthropic deeds surrounded him too, from building community centers in impoverished neighborhoods to sponsoring scholarships for underprivileged youth. In the eyes of the world, Leonard was a generous millionaire with a heart of gold. But behind the perfect public persona lay flaws he worked diligently to hide. Ambition often led him down morally ambiguous paths. His relentless pursuit of success had cost him the simple joys of family life. Late-night negotiations, secret deals, and hidden associations with beautiful women had turned him into someone Sofia could no longer fully recognize. That evening, Leonard stood at the center of the opulent ballroom in the Harrington Hotel, looking like the picture of confidence. Dressed in a custom-tailored navy tuxedo, he greeted donors and socialites with a charming smile. At his side was his closest friend and business partner, Robert King, an up-and-coming lawyer famed for winning nearly every case he touched. Robert, always vigilant, noticed the tension in Leonard's eyes. He leaned in to whisper, "Sofia's here. You good?" Leonard nodded, feigning enthusiasm, but deep down, a storm was brewing. A gentle hush fell over the crowd as Sophia made her entrance. Her green gown complemented her olive skin, and the soft glow of chandelier lights danced on her graceful silhouette. Leonard moved toward her, placing a polite kiss on her cheek. "You look breathtaking, Sophia," he said with a smile that tried to hide his apprehension. She offered a thin-lipped smile in return, responding with a quiet "Thank you, Leonard." As they circulated through the room, greeting dignitaries and wealthy benefactors, Sophia tried to push aside the nagging sense of unease. She couldn't ignore the furtive glances some guests gave her, or the pitying expression on a few acquaintances' faces. Something was amiss. She felt it in the air, like static electricity before a thunderstorm. Her suspicions only intensified when Leonard excused himself from her side to greet someone across the room. Following his line of sight, she saw a tall, raven-haired woman in a crimson gown that hugged every curve with scandalous precision. Their eyes met momentarily, and Sophia's heart lurched. It was as if she was looking at living proof of all her worst fears. Anastasia Clarke was a name that circulated among the upper echelons of LA society. She was rumored to be a successful interior designer, known for her impeccable taste and exclusive clientele. Yet behind her dazzling surface lay a cunning opportunist with a unique talent for ensnaring wealthy men. Stories about Anastasia's supposed conquests, actors, CEOs, and even a politician were whispered at plush country clubs and in ladies' bathrooms at expensive restaurants. Clad in her striking crimson gown, Anastasia exuded confidence. She moved through the crowd like a queen holding court, an alluring smile always on her glossy lips. When Leonard finally reached her, she didn't hesitate to wrap her arms around him in a brazen hug, pressing herself against him. It was a moment so blatant that a hush fell on the immediate vicinity. People stopped talking and turned to watch. From across the room, Sophia stood frozen. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. The rumors of a mistress were one thing, but watching Anastasia embrace her husband so openly in front of hundreds of people, and while Sophia herself was pregnant, was almost too much to bear. She felt her eyes sting with tears that threatened to fall, but she quickly blinked them away. An audible gasp rippled through the crowd as they waited to see Leonard's reaction. Most expected him to make an excuse, laugh it off, or gently detach himself. But no one anticipated what happened next. Leonard's eyebrows shot up momentarily, as if startled by Anastasia's boldness. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Sophia could barely breathe. What she saw next would be etched into her memory like a permanent scar. Leonard gently placed his hands on Anastasia's shoulders, pushing her backward and away from him with a firm but calm gesture. The entire room held its breath. Then he spoke, a voice measured, yet resonating with an uncharacteristic chill. "Anastasia, you are crossing a boundary here. My wife is standing right there," he said, nodding towards Sophia. His tone contained not an ounce of affection. It was the voice of a businessman admonishing a subordinate, or a teacher scolding a disrespectful student. A flush of crimson spread across Anastasia's cheeks. She had expected him to play along, to at least smile or reciprocate. Instead, he was essentially distancing himself from her in front of everyone. For a woman who thrived on public acclaim and private seduction, being cast aside so openly was a bitter blow. Confusion rippled across the crowd. Murmurs of shock and speculation grew louder. Some onlookers observed Sophia's face, wondering how she felt. Others watched as Anastasia, mortified, tried to salvage her composure. What had transpired between them behind closed doors? Why had Leonard reacted this way now after all the rumors? Anastasia's embarrassment was palpable. She took a shaky step back, her eyes flickering between Leonard and Sophia. Then, with an awkward smile, she muttered something about needing a drink and turned away, disappearing into a cluster of spectators. Leonard cleared his throat, looked around at the stunned faces, and gave a curt nod, as though to say, the show's over. Guests slowly resumed their chatter, but the energy of the event had shifted irrevocably. Nothing would be the same after that scandalous display. Sophia, feeling a jumbled mess of relief and confusion, left the ballroom to find some air. She made her way down a corridor illuminated by ornate sconces, leading to a secluded terrace overlooking the city skyline. Rain drizzled faintly, creating a soft, soothing hiss as droplets met the marble floor. Hugging herself, she tried to process the spectacle she had just witnessed. She wondered what had prompted Leonard to publicly reject Anastasia. Was it guilt, or perhaps genuine devotion to Sophia and their unborn child? Or was it a carefully orchestrated move to save face in front of the city's elite? She felt a complex swirl of emotions, caught between gratitude that he hadn't outright affirmed Anastasia and lingering heartbreak that his fidelity was even in question. In the hush of the terrace, Sophia was startled by a voice behind her. "You all right, Mrs. Santiago?" It was Robert King, stepping quietly onto the terrace with a concerned expression. Sophia forced a small smile. "I'm fine, Robert. Just needed some air." He joined her by the marble balustrade. "That scene back there. I'm sorry you had to witness that. It's not right." "It's not," she admitted, exhaling shakily. "But maybe it's a sign that he's cutting ties with her." Even as she spoke, she wasn't sure she believed it. She was reaching for any thread of hope to hold on to. Robert hesitated, as though weighing his next words carefully. "Sophia, I've been Leonard's friend since we were kids. He can be ruthless in business, but he does love you. I think what he did tonight was a step in the right direction. But if you truly want to keep this marriage intact, you both need to have a real conversation." Sophia nodded, tears threatening again. "I'm afraid of what I'll find out if we talk about everything that's been happening." Robert placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Sometimes the only way to mend things is to face the ugly truth. Later that night, the charity gala ended in an uneasy hush. Guests departed with parting glances, some pitying Sophia, others speculating about Leonard's motives, and a few who simply reveled in the gossip they could spread at their next social gathering. Leonard, exhausted and emotionally drained, found Sophia in the penthouse suite he had booked to host out-of-town donors. She sat on the edge of a plush sofa, still in her emerald gown. The baby inside her shifted restlessly, as though sensing her stress. Leonard removed his tuxedo jacket and sat across from her in a leather armchair, fiddling with his cufflinks. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. "What happened tonight, Leonard?" He inhaled sharply. "I told her it was over. Anastasia. She tried to pull that stunt to well. I suppose to force my hand, or maybe embarrass you. Or me." His gaze faltered. "I'm sorry, Sophia. She's been a mistake I've made, one I want to correct." Sophia's voice quivered. "How long has it been going on?" Leonard swallowed hard. "Around 6 months. But I ended it a week ago. She didn't take it well. Said she wouldn't let me go so easily. I didn't think she'd do something so brazen tonight." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. Hearing the truth, even though she already suspected it, was like a knife twisting in her heart. "Why, Leonard? Why betray our marriage, especially when I'm pregnant with your child?" He stared at the floor, shame etched into his features. "I have no excuse. My life was consumed by work, and we've been distant. I felt lonely, and she made me feel wanted. It was reckless and cruel of me. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but I am asking for a chance to make it right." Sophia felt as though she were on the brink of emotional collapse, but she also felt an odd sense of relief that the truth was finally out. She closed her eyes, recalling the years they had spent together, the laughter, the shared goals, and the promise of a loving family. Was she truly ready to throw it all away? "You say you're ending it," Sophia said quietly, opening her eyes to meet his. If that's true, I need to know that it's completely over. No second chances for her, no secret phone calls, no hush-hush meetings. I need transparency, Leonard. Complete honesty. He looked at her earnestly. I understand. You have my word. Sophia stood up, turning to gaze out the window at the city lights, glimmering under the rain. Words mean little right now. Actions will define whether I can ever trust you again. For the sake of our child, for the sake of us, I'm willing to try, but if I see one more lie, one more betrayal, I'm gone, and I'll take our child with me. Leonard rose and moved closer, a somber determination in his eyes. I'll prove it to you. I swear. Across town, in the penthouse suite of a stylish high-rise, Anastasia Clark paced furiously. She ripped the pins from her hair, letting it cascade around her shoulders. Her reflection in a massive mirror showed the face of a woman scorned. She recalled the humiliating moment at the gala, the looks of disbelief from onlookers, and Leonard's cold rejection. It all replayed in her mind like a broken record, fueling her rage. She grabbed her phone and sank onto a velvet chaise lounge, scrolling through her contacts until she found Leonard's name. Her finger hovered over the call button, but she resisted. She'd already tried calling him multiple times tonight, to no avail. He was intentionally ignoring her, an act that stung more than she cared to admit. Fine, she muttered to herself. If he wants to play this game, I'll show him I'm not to be dismissed. Revenge brewed in her thoughts, twisting into darker possibilities. She knew about certain shady business deals Leonard had engaged in, including a questionable land development project in the outskirts of San Diego. If she spilled those secrets to the right people, it could land him in serious legal trouble. A cruel smile touched her lips at the thought, yet she still felt a pang of longing. She had grown accustomed to Leonard's lavish gifts, diamond bracelets from Tiffany and Company, weekend getaways at the Ritz-Carlton, the best table at Nobu in Malibu. Part of her refused to let go of the lifestyle he provided. No, she decided, I won't vanish quietly. He'll regret humiliating me. Days turned into weeks as Sophia and Leonard navigated an uneasy reconciliation. True to his word, Leonard cut off all contact with Anastasia, blocking her calls, telling his assistant to reject any of her attempts to schedule meetings, and making a conscious effort to be more present in Sophia's life. He accompanied her to prenatal appointments, planned quiet dinners at home, and initiated conversations about the future. Bit by bit, Sophia felt her guarded heart soften. She began to hope that maybe they could salvage their relationship for the sake of their unborn child, a future baby girl whose first ultrasound pictures now adorned their refrigerator door. One Thursday afternoon, after Sophia's visit to Dr. Hilary Brown for a routine checkup, she found a bouquet of roses waiting on the kitchen counter. A handwritten card read, "One day at a time. I love you, Leonard." She held the card to her chest, tears of conflicting emotions welling up. A part of her still ached with residual distrust, but another part of her recognized Leonard was making genuine efforts. Meanwhile, Anastasia was relentless. She hired a private investigator, Brian Palmer, to dig up any dirt on Leonard that she could potentially use as leverage. Palmer discovered some borderline unethical business dealings, nothing overtly criminal, but enough to raise eyebrows. Anastasia took meticulous notes, particularly on a questionable transaction involving a property called Hightop Estate. Leonard had purchased it under an LLC to hide his involvement, then quickly sold it for double the price to a third party rumored to be a shell corporation. The details were convoluted, but Anastasia had enough context to cast suspicion on Leonard if she leaked the information to a hungry journalist. Yet she wanted a more personal form of revenge, something that would strike at the heart of Leonard's attempts to mend his marriage. She aimed to shatter his domestic peace in a way no business scandal could. For that, she needed to get close, very close to Sophia. Just as life seemed to be inching toward normalcy in the Santiago household, Sophia received an anonymous letter in the mail. The envelope had no return address, and inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed note: "You should know the truth. Meet me at the Magnolia Cafe on Westwood Boulevard tomorrow, 3 p.m. Anxiety prickled at the back of her neck as she reread the cryptic message. Could this be Anastasia? Despite Leonard's protests, Sophia decided to go. She was tired of living in uncertainty, and she suspected this might be her chance to put an end to Anastasia's meddling once and for all. The Magnolia Cafe was a cozy, bustling spot, famous for its cappuccinos and freshly baked pastries. Sophia arrived a few minutes early and took a seat at a corner table. The baby kicked lightly, as if sensing her tension. She tried to calm herself with a few sips of water. Right on time, Anastasia Clark strode in, wearing a chic black trench coat and oversized sunglasses. Removing the sunglasses, she scanned the cafe, spotting Sophia quickly. With a smirk curling her red lips, she sauntered over and sat down. Neither woman spoke for a moment. Sophia folded her hands over her belly protectively. Anastasia eyed the pregnant bump with a mixture of scorn and jealousy. Finally, Anastasia broke the silence. "You're braver than I thought, showing up here." Sophia kept her voice level. "You said you had something to tell me. So tell me." A waiter approached to take orders. Anastasia waved him off dismissively. "We won't be long," she said, her eyes never leaving Sophia's face. Once the waiter left, Anastasia leaned forward. "Leonard might have cut me off, but he can't erase what's happened between us. I'm sure you're smugly thinking you've won. Well, let me assure you, I'm far from done. I have information that could ruin him, and by extension, you." Sophia swallowed hard. She had half expected this. "Do you think blackmailing me will fix anything? If Leonard did something illegal, you can go to the authorities. Otherwise, this is just you seeking revenge." Anastasia smiled coldly. "You sound braver than you look. But let's not play games. I know how wealthy you both are. There's no limit to what you'd pay to keep your family's reputation intact. If I leak what I know, he'll lose everything: his fortune, his deals, possibly even his freedom. How would that affect your precious unborn child?" Sophia felt her temper flare. She reminded herself to remain calm for the baby's sake. Leonard's mistakes are his own to face. But threatening us? That's going too far. Why do you want to hurt him so badly? Anastasia's gaze flickered, revealing a deeper wound than Sophia had anticipated. "Because he humiliated me in front of everyone. I was nothing but a secret fling to him, like a disposable accessory. And you," she spat the word with venom, "you get the ring, the baby, the name." Sophia stood, her posture steady despite her trembling insides. "If it's money you want, we can arrange something through our lawyers. But let's be clear, if you ruin Leonard, you ruin yourself too. No one in this town will trust a blackmailer." For a moment, Anastasia's eyes blazed. Then, just as quickly, a sly calm replaced her anger. "Oh, I don't want to be a blackmailer, but I do want retribution. I'll be in touch." With that, she rose and glided out of the cafe, leaving Sophia shaken and furious. By the time Sophia got home, she felt mentally exhausted. Leonard was in his study, reviewing documents for an upcoming business deal. She confronted him immediately. "We need to talk about your property deals, especially something called Hightop Estate." Leonard frowned. "How do you know about Hightop Estate?" His reaction was all the confirmation. Sophia needed that something shady was indeed going on. She explained her meeting with Anastasia, minus the part about the blackmail. She wanted to see how he'd handle her knowledge first. Leonard sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. I was going to tell you, I swear I was. It's true, I used an LLC to buy that property. I flipped it for a quick profit. And yes, the buyer might be a front for something. Robert's still investigating, but it's not illegal. At worst, it's just frowned upon in certain business circles. Sophia took a step closer, anger emanating from her. Do you realize the position this puts us in? Anastasia is threatening to go public with whatever she knows. Even if it's not strictly illegal, the scandal alone could ruin your reputation. This child, our child, could be born into chaos if the press catches wind of this. Leonard's expression softened. I never meant to endanger you or our baby. I was trying to secure a major profit before the competition swooped in. That's the nature of real estate in LA, cutthroat and sometimes ethically murky. But I should have told you about this earlier. Sophia sighed. We can't let her control our future. You need to come clean about everything and find a way to neutralize her threats. Anastasia's attempts at blackmail escalated in the following days. She sent Sophia text messages, cryptic reminders of her knowledge, daring her to make a move. Leonard began consulting Robert King, hoping his friend's legal expertise would offer some protection. Robert advised them to gather evidence of Anastasia's blackmail attempts and to consider filing a restraining order if she crossed certain lines. But Leonard had another idea. The annual LA Business Summit was fast approaching, and he was scheduled to deliver a keynote speech about ethical practices in real estate. He wanted to use that platform to come clean about his questionable deals in a carefully curated confession. By being transparent first, he aimed to disarm Anastasia's threats. If the story came from him under a narrative of learning from mistakes, the press might spin it in a more favorable light. Sophia was ambivalent about the plan. It's risky, she told him. There's no guarantee the public will be forgiving, and Anastasia might still have something else up her sleeve. Leonard nodded in acknowledgement. I know, but what choice do we have? Letting her hold this over us forever isn't an option. The couple prepared meticulously, drafting Leonard's speech with Robert's input, ensuring that the admission would not implicate Leonard in actual crimes. Their hope was to present the story as a moral lesson, an example of a businessman who briefly lost his way, but was working hard to atone and become a better person. Word spread in high society circles that Leonard Santiago was planning a major announcement at the LA Business Summit. Anastasia heard the rumors and realized she was on the verge of losing her leverage. Furious, she made a final desperate move. She leaked a snippet of the Hightop estate deal details to a tabloid journalist known for sensational headlines. The next morning, headlines blazed. Millionaire mogul's shady deals exposed. Is Leonard Santiago hiding more? The article was light on specifics, but heavy on implications. A flurry of media calls bombarded the Santiago mansion, demanding answers. Some social media users expressed outrage, accusing Leonard of profiteering. Others dismissed the story as baseless gossip. Sophia awoke to the chaos, feeling her heart race. Stress coursed through her veins, threatening both her emotional stability and the health of her unborn baby. Leonard tried to calm her, but the tension was palpable. His phone buzzed non-stop with calls from business partners and potential investors, anxious about the swirling rumors. By mid-afternoon, it was clear the damage was real. A few investors had already threatened to withdraw from a major project. Leonard's public image, carefully cultivated over the years, stood on the brink of collapse. We have to expedite the speech, he told Robert, who agreed. We'll do it at the summit as planned, but we need to address these rumors head-on. The LA Business Summit took place in a sprawling convention center near downtown, with thousands of attendees. When Leonard and Sophia arrived, they were met by a swarm of reporters shouting questions. Bodyguards formed a protective barrier as the couple made their way inside. Sophia's face was etched with worry, but she clung to Leonard's arm, determined to present a united front. Inside the auditorium, the tension was palpable. The hum of chatter rose among the audience, filled with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and aspiring business students. Word had spread that Leonard would address the scandal, and everyone was eager to hear his explanation. At precisely 10 a.m., the stage lights dimmed, and the MC introduced Leonard Santiago. As he walked onto the stage, Sophia watched from a reserved front row seat, her hands folded protectively over her belly. She prayed for strength for her husband, for their future, for the fragile hope that trust could still be rebuilt. Leonard began by thanking the organizers, then dove straight into the issue. He admitted to using LLCs to purchase properties and flipping them for profits that skirted ethical lines. He apologized for any disillusionment this had caused among his peers and the public. He expressed regret for letting ambition overshadow his better judgment, vowing to implement a transparent process for all future deals. His tone was measured, sincere. Listening intently, Sophia felt a flicker of pride that he was bravely facing this storm. Just as Leonard started to wrap up his speech, the auditorium doors swung open with a loud thud, causing heads to swivel. Anastasia Clark strode in, flanked by two men. One was her private investigator, the other a tabloid journalist. Murmurs spread like wildfire as people recognized her from the infamous gala incident that had been splashed across gossip columns. Anastasia marched down the aisle, ignoring the startled ushers who attempted to stop her. "Leonard," she called out, her voice echoing in the hushed auditorium. She reached the foot of the stage, glaring up at him. "Are you going to tell them about the affair, too? Or is that something you'd prefer to keep hidden?" A collective gasp arose. Cameras flashed, capturing every second of the unexpected disruption. Leonard stood frozen at the podium, looking momentarily stunned. Sophia's heart pounded as she watched, dreading what might happen next. "Everyone in this city deserves to know how you lied," Anastasia continued, her voice trembling with rage. "How you promised me everything, only to toss me aside like trash when your wife showed up pregnant." The crowd buzzed with shock. Many recognized Anastasia from scandalous rumors, but hearing her speak so openly magnified the drama tenfold. Some members of the audience took out their phones, recording the spectacle for social media. Leonard's grip on the podium tightened. He glanced at Sophia, who looked back with apprehension. He could take the easy route, deny everything, call security to remove Anastasia, and hope the public believed him. But that would undermine every step toward honesty he'd taken today. Instead, he stepped away from the podium and lowered himself to the edge of the stage so he was almost at eye level with Anastasia. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, but his voice carried through the microphone. "I did betray my wife, and I also betrayed the trust of others. I allowed personal weakness to overshadow my responsibilities. And that's exactly what I'm striving to correct, both in my personal life and in my business." A mixture of awe and confusion spread across the auditorium. Sophia watched with a mix of hurt and admiration. She had already known the truth, but hearing him admit it so publicly stirred her emotions once again. Anastasia's lips trembled. She hadn't expected Leonard to confess everything so candidly. She had wanted to shame him, but he was now beating her to the punch by owning up to his failings. The defiance in her gaze flickered. "You can't just say sorry and expect me to vanish," she spat, though her voice cracked. Leonard nodded. "I know. You deserve more than a dismissive apology, but I need you to see that this isn't about you and me anymore. I'm trying to rebuild my life with my wife and child. If you need reparation, let's handle it privately, legally, if necessary. But I'm done lying. To you, to my wife, or to anyone else." A stunned silence enveloped the auditorium. Then, to everyone's surprise, a soft ripple of applause began. It came from an older businessman in the front row who stood clapping slowly. Gradually, more people joined in. Some, clearly moved by Leonard's frank admission, showed their support for his willingness to confront his misdeeds head-on. Others remained cautious, uncertain if this was just another performance by a savvy businessman. Anastasia's composure cracked. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall in front of the cameras. She turned on her heel and hurried back up the aisle, pushing past the tabloid journalist, who frantically snapped photos. The private investigator followed in her wake, looking slightly bewildered at the turn of events. Sophia exhaled, tears staining her cheeks. Leonard returned to the microphone. "Let's end this here. I admit my personal failings and unethical shortcuts. I have begun taking concrete steps to rectify past mistakes. And I promise you all, especially my wife, that from here on out, honesty and integrity will guide me. Thank you." With that, he exited the stage to more scattered applause and a sea of flashing cameras. In the hours following the dramatic confrontation, Leonard's phone erupted with messages, some praising his candor, others condemning his actions. PR consultants argued that he had done the only thing possible to salvage his image. Investors, initially rattled, cautiously held back on withdrawing their support, waiting to see how public opinion would settle. Sophia and Leonard retreated to their mansion, exhausted. In the quiet living room, he sank onto a couch, leaning his head back. Sophia joined him, placing a gentle hand on his knee. "You were so brave today," she murmured. He turned his head, a weary but relieved smile tugging at his lips. "I was terrified, but I realized I couldn't keep hiding the truth. Not from you, and not from everyone else." She nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "The affair hurt me deeply, but seeing you own up to it in such a public way, I believe you are genuinely trying to change." Leonard placed a tentative hand on her swollen belly. "I love you, Sophia, both of you. I'm so sorry for everything." She leaned into him, letting her tears flow. "Just promise me we'll face everything together from now on." Anastasia holed up in her penthouse, refusing to answer calls, even from the tabloid journalist who tried to glean more details about the confrontation. She felt foolish, defeated, and alone. She had spent so much energy planning her revenge, only to watch Leonard reclaim control of the narrative by confessing first. Instead of witnessing his downfall, she had unwittingly handed him a path to redemption. Late that night, she stared out the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city shimmered below her, and she realized how empty she felt. Had her entire identity hinged on Leonard's affection and his luxurious lifestyle? Where did she go from here? Her phone buzzed with a message from Brian Palmer, the investigator. "Clark, you owe me for the info. Don't ghost me." She grimaced, realizing that she had overextended herself financially in her quest to ruin Leonard. The prospects of finding a new wealthy benefactor were dimming, given her newfound reputation as a public troublemaker. Her facade of unbreakable poise had shattered in front of all of Los Angeles. A wave of regret washed over her. She had lost much more than she gained. In the weeks that followed, the dust gradually settled. Public discourse shifted to newer scandals, relegating Leonard's confession to last month's news. A few critical articles questioned whether he had truly reformed or was just an opportunist who got caught, but many lauded his willingness to go on record and address mistakes, arguing it set a precedent for honesty in a cutthroat industry. More importantly, Sophia and Leonard took tangible steps to heal their marriage. They started therapy sessions, focusing on trust and communication. Leonard also made philanthropic gestures, donating a substantial sum to housing initiatives for low-income families, as though seeking to balance the karmic scales. He was more attentive at home, cooking dinner for Sophia, massaging her feet when pregnancy discomfort set in, and reading books about fatherhood in the evenings. Each act was a small building block in the fragile structure of trust they were reconstructing. The memory of Anastasia lingered like a faint stain, but it was fading slowly, overshadowed by the couple's renewed commitment to each other. Sophia's due date was fast approaching. The night before she was scheduled for a checkup, she paced the living room, feeling the baby's restless kicks. Leonard walked in, noticing her agitation. "Everything okay?" She nodded, managing a soft smile. "Yes, I'm just excited, nervous, a bit scared. Our daughter could arrive any day now. Are we ready?" He slipped an arm around her waist and kissed her temple. "We'll learn as we go, but we'll do it together." Just then, Sophia felt a sharp tightening in her abdomen, followed by a wave of mild pain. She froze. Leonard's eyes widened. "Is it time?" She shook her head, exhaling. "Braxton Hicks, probably, but we should be prepared." They spent the next few minutes verifying the hospital bag, double-checking the car seat installation, and discussing their birth plan. The tension they had once endured seemed to evaporate in the face of this new life moment. Their focus turned toward the future, filled with anticipation for the little one about to enter their world. A week later, in the early hours of the morning, Sophia felt a contraction so strong it nearly took her breath away. She woke Leonard up, her face contorting in pain. "It's happening," she whispered through gritted teeth. He sprang into action, helping her to the car and driving her to the hospital. Her obstetrician, Dr. Hilary Brown, was ready and waiting. The labor was intense. Hours passed, filled with contractions, tears, and the unwavering support of a husband determined to be at Sophia's side. Finally, at 3:42 p.m., their daughter, Lily Sofia Santiago, made her grand entrance. The moment Leonard heard her first cry, tears streamed down his face. Sophia cradled the tiny newborn against her chest, overwhelmed by love and relief. In that hospital room, as Lily's cries subsided into soft coos, the reality of what truly mattered dawned on both Leonard and Sophia. In the presence of new life, all past betrayals and scandals seemed distant. The small family, once threatened by lies and secrets, now had a future defined by honesty and commitment. A week after Lily's birth, Sophia was resting at home, cuddling the baby in a nursery decorated in soft pink and white. Leonard appeared at the doorway with a conflicted look on his face. "There's someone here to see you," he said quietly. Sophia looked at him quizzically. "Who?" He hesitated. "Anastasia Clark." Sophia stiffened. A surge of protective instinct coursed through her. "Why would she come here? She said she wants to apologize. I can send her away if you prefer." Sophia glanced down at her sleeping baby. She was deeply skeptical, but curiosity gnawed at her. "No, let her in, but I want you by my side." Moments later, Anastasia stood in the living room, looking surprisingly subdued. She wore a simple dress, her makeup minimal. She fidgeted with the strap of her handbag, casting nervous glances at Leonard before turning her attention to Sophia. Sophia carefully handed Lily to Leonard and folded her arms. "What do you want, Anastasia?" Anastasia's gaze flicked to Lily, and a flash of sorrow passed over her features. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she began softly. "I realize now that I let my pride and anger consume me, and in the process, I nearly destroyed your family." Sophia remained guarded. "Yes, you did." A tremor appeared in Anastasia's voice. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it. I also wanted you to know that I'm leaving L.A. I got a job offer in Chicago, a chance to start fresh. I won't bother you or Leonard anymore." Leonard, holding Lily protectively, asked, "Are you sincere, Anastasia? No more blackmail, no more threats?" She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I have no reason to continue. I lost. I've learned a difficult lesson. I realize I can't build a future by clinging to someone else's husband. A long silence stretched in the room. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice measured but not unkind. I appreciate you coming here to say that. For the sake of my family, I hope you find your peace. But please respect our boundaries. Anastasia nodded once more, a tear rolling down her cheek. She took a final glance at Lily, the tangible symbol of the life she once tried to sabotage, and turned to leave. The door closed softly behind her. Sophia and Leonard exchanged a look of relief, both sensing an invisible weight lifting from the room. In the months that followed Lily's birth, the Santiago household brimmed with a mix of quiet joy and inevitable challenges. Nighttime feedings turned the once silent mansion into a symphony of Lily's soft cries and lullabies humming from the nursery, while mornings brought a renewed sense of purpose for Sophia and Leonard. They were no longer just husband and wife, they were parents to a spirited little girl who demanded their attention and gave their lives fresh meaning. Despite the late-night exhaustion and the steep learning curve of new parenthood, Sophia found herself smiling more often than she ever had before. Each time Lily gazed up at her with wide eyes, an overwhelming sense of love and protectiveness washed over her. Leonard, on the other hand, juggled fatherhood with the demanding realm of business. After his public confession at the LA Business Summit, he doubled down on maintaining transparency in every project. His company weathered the initial backlash better than anticipated, partly due to the compassion he garnered from those who appreciated his honesty, and partly because many saw that behind the multi-million-dollar deals was a man genuinely striving to redeem himself. Investors who valued moral fortitude stayed on board, even venturing to form new partnerships with him. Still, Leonard understood that trust was fragile and building it back would require unwavering dedication. Sophia watched these transformations with both gratitude and lingering caution. She couldn't deny the relief she felt at seeing Leonard rush home from late meetings just to read Lily her bedtime story. He would kneel beside the crib, voice soft, recounting fairy tales or telling Lily about his own childhood in a gentle whisper. Sometimes he would glance at Sophia over Lily's head, and their eyes would lock in a silent exchange of hope and mutual respect. In those moments, Sophia glimpsed the caring, enthusiastic husband she had fallen in love with years ago. Yet the scars of betrayal still existed. Some nights, Sophia found it hard to sleep, her mind replaying painful memories of Anastasia. There were flashes of anger moments when a stray thought reminded her of all she had almost lost. Therapy sessions, both individual and as a couple, helped her work through these emotions. Dr. Alexander Parker, their marriage counselor, introduced exercises in communication and trust building. Whenever old insecurities threatened to resurface, they practiced active listening, taking turns to speak without interruption, ensuring each felt heard and validated. It wasn't just their marriage that required careful tending. Leonard's relationship with Robert King also took on new depth. Robert proved invaluable in guiding Leonard through ethical business strategies. Behind the scenes, Robert tirelessly reviewed contracts and performed due diligence on any deal that crossed Leonard's desk, making sure there were no hidden landmines that could pull the family back into scandal. Though Robert remained Leonard's loyal ally, he had also become Sophia's confidant, reminding her that real change wouldn't happen overnight. Patience and consistency would be key. Meanwhile, Lily continued to grow, making her presence known with every gurgle and babble. She became an anchor for Sophia and Leonard, someone so small and fragile, yet capable of uniting them in purpose. They spent weekends strolling through the city parks, sometimes discreetly guarded by security to deter paparazzi. With each family outing, Sophia felt new layers of tension peel away, replaced by gentle contentment and the belief that maybe, Just maybe they were forging a stronger family than before. Though challenges still cropped up a biting headline here, a whispered rumor there, Sophia gradually learned to let them pass. The bond she and Leonard formed in the crucible of crisis turned out to be remarkably resilient. Brick by brick, day by day, they built a home where Lily's laughter could echo freely, safe from the spectres of the past. And in that laughter, Sophia found assurance. No matter how dark the shadows that had once loomed over them, the light of love and commitment glowed brighter than ever. One sunny morning, Sophia stood on the back patio, watching Lily crawl on a large blanket spread across the manicured lawn. Leonard joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. The Los Angeles skyline shimmered in the distance. A sense of peace, hard fought and treasured, enveloped them. Leonard bent down to pick up Lily, lifting her high in the air as she giggled. "Every day, I'm reminded of how lucky I am," he said, pressing a kiss to the baby's forehead. "Thank you for giving me another chance." Sophia leaned against him, smiling at the innocent laughter of their child. "We both had to learn a lot, Leonard, but Lily makes it all worth it." The family of three basked in the warm California sun, hopeful about the life unfolding before them. They were no longer defined by past mistakes or haunted by a mistress's looming shadow. Instead, they had emerged stronger, bound by the precious gift of trust reborn. From the shadows of betrayal to the light of redemption, the Santiago's journey reminds us that honesty can offer a bridge back from even the deepest chasms of mistrust. Leonard's public confession risked his entire empire, yet it paved the way for a hard-earned forgiveness. Sophia, pregnant and determined, found within herself a capacity to fight for both her marriage and her own self-worth. Even Anastasia, driven by vengeance, discovered that her pursuit of destruction led only to regret. In the end, new life, in the form of baby Lily, offered a fresh beginning, proof that the bonds of love can endure when nurtured with sincerity. If this riveting story moved you, please show your support by hitting the like button, sharing it with friends, and subscribing to our channel. Your engagement helps us create more stories that captivate, inspire, and resonate with people everywhere. Thank you for watching.